Manual shift patterns. Why are there so many? And what's the difference between them all? Preface. Motorcyclists and semi-truck drivers, get out of here! I'll get to you guys later. Promise. Now, before I talk about the actual shifter patterns, it's important to discuss how gearboxes have changed and evolved over the years. Back in the old days, 3 or 4 gears was all you got. It was all you really needed. Transmissions had to be cheap to manufacture while also being simple and stout to withstand the beatings administered daily by the older, less refined, and often but not always bigger engines that they were strapped to. The resulting rudimentary design was due in part to the limited tooling and primitive engineering methods of the day, but it was also a love letter to the technicians who would inevitably be forced to repair them when they broke. Need proof that simplicity is bliss? NASCAR still uses 4-speed gearboxes in all of their cars because they're strong, cheap, and easy to work on. Nowadays, automakers have blessed us with 5, 6, and even 7-speed manual transmissions. They do a really great job of keeping us in the power band and help give us better fuel economy, but they aren't without their drawbacks. With great power comes even greater complexity, and nobody really rebuilds these things anymore. If your gearbox explodes, you get a new one. We do not rebuild, we simply replace. Right, now about those shift patterns. When it comes to forward gears, automakers agree that there is only one legitimate arrangement. First gear is left and up, and from there it follows a logical and intuitive sequence up to your final gear. Reverse, well, right and down is probably what most people are familiar with. Left and up to reverse wasn't as common a few years ago, but the Euro style of sticking reverse next to first has been gaining a lot of traction stateside as of late. Some old Euro cars, and most modern ones, require the driver to push the gear stick down or pull up on a ring before it even lets you go anywhere near reverse. This is done in the name of safety, and it prevents you from accidentally jamming it in reverse at a bad time. There is the occasional oddball car with reverse slapped next to second or even 5th gear, but honestly, I've never seen one in person. Don't even get me started on dogleg shift patterns. Don't know what a dogleg gearbox is? In a dogleg transmission, first gear is left and down, where second gear would usually be, and the rest of the gears follow this weird pattern. This is because, in racing, the most common shifts are between second and third gear. First is almost never used, and it is much easier to change gears in a straight line, rather than having to throw the lever diagonally across the shift pattern, hence the switch. Now, nobody knew or cared about these things until Top Gear talked about it, and suddenly, every bench racing internet auto enthusiast started acting like it was something they'd known about for a long time. Cars don't really employ it at all today, and it's probably for a good reason. And anyway, the name really does say exactly where this shift pattern belongs. Out with the dogs. Now, if you're a hipster who putts around in your grandma's old farm truck, you may be unfortunate enough to have a manual transmission with the gear lever mounted on the steering column. To the inexperienced, this seems like a rather novel concept, but as anyone who's ever driven one will tell you, it's exactly like driving with a floor shifter, except that everything is tilted 90 degrees to the right and flipped on its side. The only real benefit of this style shifter is if you have a bench seat, you can have someone sit in the middle without having their legs get caught up in all your gear changes. So why do we have so many shift patterns? Well, when automakers started designing cars in the early days, there weren't any real rules or established conventions to conform to. Everybody was left to go their own way, and the resulting experimentation eliminated lots of bad ideas and landed us on a handful of good ones that stuck. From there, shift patterns were adapted to suit the wants and needs of both the manufacturer and the consumer. Reverse positions and lockouts were designed with safety and gearbox preservation in mind. Dogleg boxes were made specifically to shave extra tenths off of racing drivers' lap times. Column shifters came out and about because bench seats were a really big thing back in their day. And you can only expect the number of gears on manual transmissions to get higher and higher as government fuel efficiency requirements become more and more demanding. Ultimately, it all comes down to manufacturer preference. They make the cars, so they make the rules. If you don't like it, don't buy it. Happy shifting, guys.